I look back at my faith story so far, I really do mean what I said when I said that we're like the same, like two different sides of the same Catholic coin. I feel like anytime I talk to Catholic converts, they're like so on fire for the faith. If you've talked to me personally, you know that I have this running joke that one convert Catholic is worth 10 cradle Catholics, because I think a lot of cradle Catholics take for granted the gift that they have literally just at their fingertips, that they're surrounded with, that they grow up in. And with so many cradle Catholics, it was something that I didn't realize until I'd almost lost it, what a gift that I had. So grew up in a super devout Catholic, a super traditional Polish Catholic family, sixth generation Catholic, and was just always kind of like, this is the way things are. This is the way things had always been. Had attended Catholic schools my entire life, all the way through the end of high school. And so then the infamous thing happened that happens to a lot of cradle Catholics. They go to college. And it's not normally a Catholic college, and they're like, oh, like an absolute terror for the first 6 months. And that's exactly what happened to me. Whether it was just being around people who didn't have a lot of the same beliefs as me, to being around people that, you start seeing some of the educational differences when you're around people who didn't get the parochial school gift of education for the entire K through 12th grade education. And you just kind of start seeing ideas that you didn't see before, and they look very tempting. Because you're like, I didn't think that you could do things that way. That's not what I'm used to. And as you said, college is a time of experimentation. I'm sure your parents are way more proud of the things you experimented with than the things that I experimented with in college, because I definitely fell away from the faith during college. When I think a lot about the story, and I don't remember the context of the story, but I remember the quote, and I think the quote is the most important part of the story. A well-known Catholic theologian was talking with one of his students, and one of his students was like, but why did Jesus have to die, though? Like, be crucified? Like, that's so gruesome. Like, why out of everything? Like, why did God let all that happen? And the theologian said, you clearly don't know the weight of sin if you're asking me that question. And I feel like the weight of sin during my college years, I'm still going to be making up for a long time, and I feel like that's probably the case with a lot of cradle Catholics. I mean, when you go to college, that's really when you're kind of like, oh, I'm my own person. Mom and Dad can't tell me to get up and go to Mass anymore. I'm just doing my own thing now. And then you find out, okay, clearly I'm not mature enough to be doing my own spiritual thing. At least I was not. I'm sure there are some people who are. I was not. So during college, I really fell away from the faith. It was just kind of like, whatever, that's my grandma's religion. And I think a lot of it was because, and I didn't realize this until later on when I was older, I think a lot of cradle Catholics don't do a very good job teaching you why you need to go to Mass. I think that growing up, it was always like, oh, we're going to see Grandma, we're going to see Grandpa, we're going to see our classmate, we're going to see our best friend, and Mr. Seabold will be there. Hi, Mr. Seabold. That's not why you go to Mass. And that wasn't something that I realized until I was a lot older. So, I go to college. I have a real St. Augustine arc where I'm like just really hamming it up, living in a world of sin, and got a job out of college as a lobbyist. I'm sure that there's a joke somewhere in there about how in the midst of my heathenism I got a job as a lobbyist. But I loved it. I was good at it. I really do feel like the Breaking Bad meme. I liked it. I was good at it, and I planned on doing it for the rest of my life. God did not. I was really good at it. I don't like tooting my own horn, but I was great at it. I had a lot of fun with it. I mean, it was like a blast getting up, going to work every day. I mean, I was in my element, and I remember I went up to D.C., this was probably 2 or 3 years ago now, went up to D.C. on a Monday, broke records all that week. I mean, was giving a speech to 2,000 people Thursday, come home Friday, get called into a meeting on Monday morning, and I'm told that my position has been eliminated. What? Because I had planned on retiring from here. What the heck am I supposed to do from here? I had no idea what to do. When I tell you that messed me up, it messed me up, because I thought I was going to be doing that for the rest of my life. And if you know me, I'm very type A, and I like to get up, work my plan, and then do it all according to my planner, and that's why sometimes God and we really have to duke it out, because that's not how God plans things, and I was living by my planner, and I was like, you know, I don't know what I'm supposed to be doing right now. It was a real, what am I doing here kind of moment. Like, why did I go to school, get all these degrees, meet all these people, gain all this experience? Like, well, what was it all for kind of thing. And then I got a phone call out of the blue, and it was the editor of the Arkansas Catholic newspaper. She had remembered me from a story that she did on me like 10 years before when I was in high school. And she was like, hey, I know you've got a journalism background. You've written for all these, publications in state. I had a secular journalism background, even though that's not what I went to college for. We can go on that rabbit hole another day. But had done that, a lot of environmental lobbying firms, stuff like that. And she was like, I need an associate editor. You were an associate editor. Come work for me. You're Catholic. And I was like, I'm not who I was then. Today, I really don't. I pretty much straight up told her, I don't think I'm the Catholic you're looking for. And hung up. 2 weeks later, she called me again. She was like, hey, I still need an associate editor. You were an associate editor. You're Catholic. Come work for me. And I was like, I still, 2 weeks later, don't think that I'm the Catholic that you're looking for. And hung up. 2 weeks later, she called me again. And she was like, I was like, okay, you know what? I know a sign from God when I see one. Clearly, this is where I need to be. I had no idea what I was getting into, truthfully. I mean, look at me. I don't look like, the Bible-thumping churchgoer. I mean, I'm covered in tattoos and piercings. Another hallmark from my crazy college days. But I was like, and I don't know where I feel about my faith in general right now. Because, when you go through some not-so-great stuff in your formative years, you're like, where was God in all that? We talk a lot about, earning God's forgiveness, but we don't talk a lot about forgiving God. And so I think that a lot of my spirituality was stunted because I was at a spot where I was like, dude, if this is what God is like, I don't want to be around him. I don't. I don't want to have somebody like that in my life. And lo and behold, I think God knows how hard-headed I am, because he was like, dude, if I got to bring you to my headquarters to get you to figure out who I really am, then that's what I'm going to do. And he did. And it was through, and I think that that's a lot of why I was really interested in Planted Cross as a project, because it was literally through hearing people's stories 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, that I was like, these weren't people who came from perfect, happy, cushy lives, and they're just, it's easy to be Catholic. I've never had anything bad happen to me. These are people who have had serious stuff happen to them in their lives. And when they were able to double down and be even better Catholics and Christians, I was like, what am I missing out on? That they went through stuff that might be way worse than what I went through. And they're here every Sunday at 9 a.m. sharp doing whatever they need to do. What is my major malfunction then? What's my disconnect? And so it was a lot of asking those questions. It was interesting that God made me a journalist, because I was not a journalist. When I graduated college, it was not at all with the intention to be a journalist. I think God handpicked me to be a journalist. I feel like God let me use the avenue of being a journalist to ask people questions that I had kind of been ruminating on for a long time, but through the lens of, I'm just doing some research for an article, could you tell me a little more about? So I think he opened that door by giving me the opportunity to ask questions that maybe other people weren't thinking about, because these were things that I'd been stewing over for years. So I'm really, really thankful that, because I do believe that my gift of writing is a gift from God. My communications gifts are gifts from God. Because I wouldn't be in this place at this state in my spiritual life if God had not physically ripped me out of where I was before and thrown me here.
Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this clip, please be sure to head over to our channel for the full interview. Planted Cross exists to bring you stories like this. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to like and subscribe, share with a friend, and head over to our website, plantedcross.com, for more life-changing stories.